Hi everyone, Comic Viewer here, this time doing another Christmas review, and this one is on the 1988 film Scrooged. Now, as you know, Scrooged is a Christmas fantasy comedy film that was directed by Richard Donner, who also gave us films like The Goonies, Lethal Weapon, and Superman. So, pretty much I would say the film Scrooged is meant to be more like a more modern retelling and more of a comical take on A Christmas Carol, which is meant to feature Bill Murray playing the iconic character Frank Cross, who is meant to be the president of a television company who wants to kind of do this big over the top version of A Christmas Carol, but doesn't see any consequences of his actions. And you can kind of tell most of the stuff he has that he's broadcasting seems over the top, overdone, and kind of crazy and all that. And we kind of see how Frank Cross kind of pushes people away or has no concern or care for anyone. Because you can tell his secretary, Grace, does get annoyed with his selfish behaviour, and you can kind of tell one of the people who go against him, Elliot, does try to warn him of any repercussions, which he quickly fires. And we kind of see how Frank is visited by his old boss, who's meant to be a version of Jacob Marley, and ends up meeting the three ghosts, which is meant to have the ghost of Christmas past as a sort of sleazy cab driver, the ghost of Christmas present, who's meant to be a sort of over-the-top, vengeful fairy, and a ghost of Christmas future, which is meant to kind of be similar to what the ghost of Christmas future is. And I would say, much like Muppets Christmas Carol, you can kind of tell Richard Donner and the team behind the film Scrooged aren't taking things seriously, but being more comical with their stories. Like, you can kind of tell they do go a little over the top with some things, but they know how to be emotional with the story. Because when you have Frank Cross going back to his past and kind of going back to his childhood, they do make it a quite sympathetic, and it's a moment where you kind of realise he never did anything big with his life and never had anything to show for it. And I think for the most part, I would say, yeah, when you kind of got Grace's son, who's kind of going to be a version of Tiny Tim, I kind of feel could have been used a bit better. But again, I know sometimes making a movie, you have to kind of cut things out, tweak things around, and kind of do what you can. And I would say Richard Donner knew what he was doing. Again, I think much like The Goonies that weren't taking things too seriously and was a film for everyone, I would say Scrooged is more like being a Christmas Carol, but you know they're not taking things too seriously. Again, it can be quite adult, and you can kind of tell this was when, in my opinion, the 80s were a time when nobody really gave a rat's ass about things. And I would say, for the most part, I would say, yeah, you kind of realise Frank's brother does try to be there for him. You can kind of tell Frank's old love interest still wants to kind of reconnect, try and relight their fire again. And you can kind of tell Frank either realises his mistakes and kind of realises his own flaws. And I would say, yeah, when they kind of got the ghost coming up later, they know how to take more time with the story. They know how to kind of give you more time to see how Frank acts and behaves around others. So I think for the most part, I would say Scrooged is a rememberable film. It's not taking itself seriously, much like Thundercats Rule, but it knows how to stay true to A Christmas Carol, much like how Thundercats Rule stayed true to the original show, but making a comical take on it. So I think it definitely deserves a thumbs up. Still good, and still alright. So, Comic Viewer here, signing out.